Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Tech Talk from MarketStream.live. My name is Joe Cusick from the Cusick Group, securities offered by MoneyBlock. Let's get into the technical nature of this market. It's been impressive. We see overall that the market is in the green. You see the S&P's up over 40, you see the NASDAQ up, you see the Russell up, you see all of the offensive sectors up. So what I wanted to do is take much more of a macro tech talk approach today, kind of giving you a guide heading into the election, and basically start looking from a technical approach and perspective, which assets may move where in event of certain outcomes. I'm going to get a little bit more in depth at 4:30 Eastern time on some moves, and then tomorrow morning at 8:30 Eastern and 9:30 Eastern. But let's just take a look at some of the areas that have been under, let's say, a lot of scrutiny as well as been on the move. One of the biggest moves that we saw this morning, other than the upside in the general market, was the fact that we saw a lot of the hedges that were put on as of basically October 27th, 28th, started to come off. They're clearly coming off once the headlines started to arise last night and into today that two things. One is the FBI says no more. Okay, not a mas on Clinton. Okay, great. Also, you're starting to see the polls, while still close, are starting to widen for a Clinton victory. Right now, you're seeing about basically 3 percentage points right now between Clinton and Trump. Now, obviously, very close, but then you start looking at the hedging markets, the markets where institutions and retail traders would go to. And the first one that you want to look at is the VIX. And you can either look at the VIX product from the SIBO, or you can look at the ETF UVXY. That's the ProShares Ultra VIX. And that dropped significantly. As a matter of fact, it's down about 22% today, or about 4.5 points. It's currently trading at 1585. And it sliced through its 50-day moving average, which last week we talked about in Tech Talk. As a matter of fact, Thursday it bounced, came off of its lows, went through the 15-day, settled above its 15-day on Thursday of last week, as well as Friday going into the weekend. We saw it running up towards 19, and then subsequently we've seen that it's pulled back. Now, it has an estimated move still being priced in at $3.60. That's what the options are pricing in for the potential for UVXY to move either up or down going into this election event. But you can clearly see that the hedging that was put on over basically since the 28th of October is starting to get pulled off. Another thing that was pretty straightforward on what the markets are anticipating is the move in the Mexican peso. It's been absolutely impressive. When you look at the Mexican peso, the DES futures contract is up about 2%. It had sliced through it's right now challenging its 200-day moving average around 535. So it basically right now is looking for long-term support. If it breaks through there and we can get up above that current mark of 535 on the peso, that could be bullish for the peso. That also could be a strong indication that there's a belief in the currency market that Clinton is going to potentially win. We also saw that, looking at gold has just been getting pounded. But I had mentioned this in the morning. Gold now trading down as low as, I believe it got down as low as 1283. 1286 was the last time I looked at it. I don't have it up on my screen right now. But gold has come off. But remember, it's still holding its gains overall since this email headline controversy was started to arise on the 28th. Taking a look at the bond markets are clearly showing, if you look at either the 10-year, the 30-year, or you can look at the TLT, which is a hybrid of the 10-year and 30-year. They call it the 20-year. TLT is trading around 130.69. It's down about $1.05 today, or around 0.8%. Right now, it is off of both its 200-day and its 50-day moving average. It has been for quite some time. But those are levels. The 200-day SMA is right now at around 133.60, and the 50-day is right around 133.86. I'm going to watch the support level where the lows, the previous lows on TLT in the last basically 6 months, is right around 129.5. TLT options are still pricing in the potential to move about $1.58 in the underlying. So we're going to watch that, especially as we continue to watch the polls and now get into the election results. The other thing too is that I want to mention is, and I think what's been a little bit underestimated or underreported at this juncture, is the fact that the economic data and the earnings data is not being reflected in the market. Now, today's move gets back what we basically lost in the last 4 days, but I think that's just because it was a reflection of what could be the potential unrest if a Trump presidency really became a reality. Now that seems like that's coming under, it's being suppressed at least to this point, we're going to have to see. You got to vote, right? Basically, what's not being discussed is the fact that for the first time in basically 5 quarters, we actually have earnings to the upside. As a matter of fact, we've seen earnings growth overall, now that we're getting into the tail end of this earnings cycle, up about 2.7%. So we could almost say that the earnings recession is over, at least for now. The other thing is that we really haven't gotten a significant bump from the GDP numbers, as well as the wage expansion that I was discussing last week. Those have both been impressive. We're getting bumps there, and it's putting everything in a position where it looks like overall we got stuff heating up, and we need to pay attention to that. And technically, we're starting to see that it's ready to challenge, but it's not yet shown us in convincing whether or not we're going to continue that upside. The other thing is that when I look at this election cycle, and I'm watching a couple things come by, I don't think that we're also looking at the activity correctly in terms of what is the underlying tone here and how can we actually pick it up. And what I mean is that when you look at the consumer and the consumer discretionary, as a matter of fact, I just saw that consumer credit. That's why I froze a little bit here. I just saw that consumer credit just came out. It's much higher than expectations. Actually, it's I think around 19 billion. It's really expanded, which is positive. That means that the consumer is out, they're spending, they're strong. If you look at XLY, which is the ETF that tracks the consumer discretionary, it's trading around 78.33 now, up about $1.60 into this number. That's about a 2% spike there, and it's right above or right at its 200-day moving average, which, by the way, that's what it sliced. This may just be chance, but that's what the consumer discretionary sector sliced through on October 28th, right around when the news about the FBI investigation into Clinton emails. It's now looking to take that back. If we get a close above 78.35 on the XLY, which is the consumer discretionary, that could be where we have new support, which was resistance over the last 4 sessions. Another thing that's been on the move and not been discussed at all until now is the move in copper. And copper is one of those industrial metals that you want to keep an eye on to get a health of the global economic growth. And copper has been screaming higher. As a matter of fact, you saw it start almost 10 days ago. It's exactly 10 days ago. It's had 10 consecutive sessions, which also happened to be right when the headlines came out about Clinton. But copper never backed off. If you look at the D's futures contract on copper, it's trading at 231.45. So it's up about almost 5 cents today, or around 2.19%. It is right now gone through its 50-day and its 200-day moving average, which is right around 215, 216 respectively. Copper is telling us right now that growth is still in play. And as a matter of fact, the last 10 sessions, even though the market in general has been down, both here in the United States and globally, copper was still screaming to the upside. And so this is going to be an important barometer to watch, and now you have these critical levels to keep an eye on. Well, I'm going to talk more about the elections, about names that you should be looking at and sectors that you should be paying attention to as we get into the election now 9 hours away. So get ready to vote. Get ready to watch MarketStream.live and get ready to get into the trade. All right? So we'll talk to you soon. Have a great rest of trading day, and we will see you at 4:30 Eastern time today for the closing bell. Take care.